Hello and welcome to the Municipality of County of Kings Public Information Meeting. This meeting is being held to discuss a planning application for a land use bylaw text amendment to add a permitted use in the rural commercial C4 zone. And the applicant is Robbie Hiltz. And so I'm here today to welcome you with my daughter, Wyla, who's feeling a little grumpy, so don't mind her. So I'm here today to host the meeting as part of the planning review process. To inform the public when the municipality has received an application that might be of interest to the community. So what's going to happen is planner Mark Fredericks is going to explain the application and the policy under which the council can consider the application. So Mark's here with me today on this video. So what it does, it gives the applicant the chance to present the proposal directly to the neighborhood. And no decisions have been made at this point. We're very early in the process, but we're just asking that property owners, if they wish, can give input or ask questions and gather public opinion. So I will hand it over to Mark, and he will do his presentation.
Super. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hiltz, and thanks for engaging in municipal government. We've got a public information meeting here where we're looking to engage with the neighborhood of South Berwick. Robbie Hiltz has applied to make a text amendment to the land use bylaw, which would apply to the C4 zone. The C4 zone is used kind of throughout the county, but there's a large stretch of it in South Berwick. And in this location, Robbie Hiltz has borrowed a property across the street from Johnny's Cookhouse to display prefabricated accessory buildings like sheds and garages and so on for sale. And he looking to amend the land use bylaw to accommodate that use. So the purpose of the meeting, again, is to inform the public of the application, explain the planning process and the policies, and to receive preliminary feedback. So staff and council have not made any decisions at this point. We're only looking for public thoughts and comments and concerns on this application. So again, the proposal here is to change the text of the C4 zone to add a new permitted use, essentially adding a use called something like accessory building sales. And this would enable the sale of these sheds or other accessory buildings without a permanent office space. So currently the C4 zone sort of allows this type of use, but it requires that a permanent office building essentially be built on the site, and then the buildings could be sold out of that. However, the applicant has found, particularly in the last 6 or 7 months, that 99% of his sales, or certainly a majority of his sales, are conducted online, and doesn't feel any need to have a permanent office space on the property. And so the nature of this business is such that, permanent location is not required. A lot of these buildings are essentially just craned onto the property, and they're then viewable and tourable by the public. So if you're looking to buy a shed, you can go to this property, look at the sheds, walk inside, and so on. But it doesn't seem to require a permanent office building. So the applicant is looking to carry on this use on this property. It's got great exposure. It's on Highway 1, South Berwick, lots of traffic going by. But this would allow him to plunk the buildings down without having a permanent office location on the property. So South Berwick is shown here. It's in our kind of rural zoning area, so that we're in the rural commercial zone. This is the subject property. It's quite long and deep. The property is across Highway 1 from Johnny's Cookhouse. So this is Johnny's, the corner of Highway 1 and Brown Street. And this area of Highway 1 is certainly quite diverse. There's a lot of commercial and residential uses kind of mixed together. And this is the zoning. So the subject property is split zoned, which means part of it is in the commercial zone and part of it is in the agricultural zone. And the applicant certainly wants to use the front portion, and this would be required under our planning regulations that the commercial use would occur in the commercial portion of the property. So any sheds or accessory buildings that would be for sale would have to be positioned in the C4 or rural commercial portion of the property, which is this front half. And that's certainly the applicant's intention as well. So in terms of policy review, our new planning strategy recognizes that sometimes the text of the land use bylaw sets out detailed regulations for each zone, but council recognizes that there may be revisions necessary to respond to changing development issues and specific development proposals. And that's sort of what we run into here. we created a zone, and we think of almost every use, but of course there's occasionally land uses that we weren't able to consider, and this is sort of a changing model of business, these prefabricated buildings, and we want to try to accommodate that. So this policy allows us to consider a text amendment to a land use zone. And specifically, policy 5.3.2 says that council shall amend the text of the land use bylaw provided that the proposal meets the general criteria. And those general criteria are reviewed whenever we amend any part of the land use bylaw, or whether we are going through a development agreement process. So these are a standard sort of list of criteria that we look at. These are evaluation tools that allow the municipality to consider a development or a project's impact on things like municipal finances, traffic generation, land use compatibility, and whether the request is in general is in keeping with the general intent of the planning strategy. We want to have a beautiful valley, successful businesses, and quiet residential areas, and so we consider the overall intent of our planning strategy, in addition to very specific aspects of both, financial impact and so on. We also engage with provincial departments on traffic and road issues. So these things will be reviewed in detail in the staff report. These general criteria continue. We look at adequacy of fire protection. So is there a fire station close by that's able to respond quickly if there were an emergency situation? We look at the adequacy of sewer and water services in the area. In this case, there's very low need for sewer and water, but we'll review that and consider that as well. Potential for flooding or serious drainage problems. We look at negative impacts on designated well field areas. So if there's a drinking water well field protection area in the area, we look at that. This carries on to look at potential for pollution or soil erosion, negative impacts on lake water if you're in a lake area, and also negative impacts on neighboring farming operations. So in this case, we are near agricultural land, so that's a factor. We also look at the suitability of the site. So is it super steep? Is the soil actively eroding? Are there geological conditions that make this development difficult? We look at the location of watercourses, marshes, bogs, and so on. So those are the general criteria that we will review and ensure that the proposal is in keeping with all of those. Again, those things will be reviewed in the staff report that goes to the Planning Advisory Committee in the future. So at this stage, we're looking for public comment, public feedback on this type of proposal. Is it reasonable to allow this type of sale of building in the C4 zone? And if you've got comments on that, we would certainly accept those, and there's contact information coming right up. But just in review of process, this is a fairly early step, the public information meeting. And then we do a full staff review, and it goes to the committee at that committee stage, and then it goes to council for first reading, second reading, and a public hearing. So there's plenty of opportunity to follow along in this process and remain engaged. Certainly there's a public hearing opportunity. This particular meeting will be notified to the surrounding property owners, in addition to letters sent out for this public information meeting recording. So that's sort of the review that we would be looking at. I'll pass it back to the Deputy Mayor, and this is my contact information. If there's any questions or concerns or thoughts, you can give me a phone call or email, and those numbers, contact information is available here. Pass it back to you, Liz. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mark. So normally at this point in the meeting is when I would turn the floor over to the people in the audience, but now you, the watcher of the video, is the audience. So you will have 30 days from the day that the presentation is posted to watch the presentation, to give feedback, ask questions, and all that feedback will be then compiled to go to the Planning Advisory Committee, as mentioned by Mark. So, and make sure that you do, if you're giving comment, please provide your name and your address so it can be attached to your comment. And like Mark said, all comment goes to him. And thank you for watching our video today.
Thank you.
All right, are we off air?